I do believe we're ready for the Ocean House experience. The much talked about Ocean House. And some super loud music. Which is probably pretty accurate. I usually sequence it so that on my way back to Arthur to report something, I go in the sewer entrance beside his building. But I believe we're better set up to go in the normal entrance, which is this one. And the thing people talk about so much is how great this Ocean House experience is and how it won awards and so on and so forth. But it's actually one of the nastiest, worst parts of the game as far as being put together. I guess there's a story that one of the, I forget which one of the people, took it home and worked on it in a fever over a weekend or a few days and slapped it together. Big clunk. And I don't think that trash can's supposed to roll like that, but it's just too perfect that it does that, so I have to leave it there. And then, hello. I'm waiting for you to fall. Thank you. So this is something a lot of people probably miss if they're not doing their inspection. Which this isn't the reason we have inspection. But we also saw the lady running there. And people say you can't die in here, but I have sure died a lot of times in here. I always go on the left side because it's closer to the door. If we go on the right side, we drop in over here. And it's sort of confusing and dark and hard to see where because of the way they have the lighting, it's hard to see where to go. And the girl is helping us, so we always want to follow her. And the male person is trying to not help us. So this is, I guess this is why we have our inspection high, is because if you're a new player and you don't know what you're supposed to do to proceed, then it'll show you all these things that you need to proceed through the game. And so you see people come in here and they're stumped and they go around and around. And the other thing, I don't know why, when I watch streamers play this, they never listen to anything. They never pay attention to anything a person says in dialogue, and they never listen to things like this door opening. So I don't know if that's just a modern thing. But back to the story about this area. In the original game, yes, it did win an award, but in the original game, it's 0 like it is in any of the patches. Because this area is missing tons and tons of sounds. They just come up as missing, and sometimes it's pretty easy to guess what they are because they're just in a different directory with the same name and the same function. But a lot of them, you just have to end up guessing what, because they aren't the same function or the same name, and it's hard to tell what they wanted or why. And I used to die in here a ton. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, never mind. This is not random at all. You just have to wait for the bolts to blow out and land on the floor. And So you just move to each area and wait for them to blow out. And we have a steam vent, we can come over here. Or go under, I should say. I used to just run through there as fast as possible. I probably still would, honestly. I'm a big fan of running through things fast. Especially this area. So, all of the things that people adore about this area was missing in 2004 when it won the award. Which is, I don't know, kind of one of the things that amuses me about the game, I guess, is how the players seem to go on and on about things that I don't know what the correct word is. Oh, and if you're worried about getting hit in there, just go in the door and back out when it has triggered, and then come around to the side and stand here. And that will be close enough to make it like that. It's close enough to make all of the objects break, but they'll just break against the wall and you won't take any damage there either. I really like the little toy pull car there. We probably should go look at that. That guy is incredibly little doggy. Incredibly cute with his little, I'm not sure what those are called. Spring wire tail, I guess. So working on this is just kind of a nightmare because of all of the problems it has. And another example of how the fans or the players go on and on about things is about how to get the Skyline apartment. There's like, well, you can't kill anyone on the Dane or you won't get the apartment, and if you don't get the apartment after the Dane, you've done something wrong, and on and on and on, and none of those things are true. Never tested this out, but I think if you're looking at this, we'll test it out. I think if you're looking at the microwave, it won't go off. And we have to look away for it to knock the door down. And here's the super important thing right here is this pushable object, which doesn't serve any purpose because you don't need it. You don't need it to get up onto there, and in fact it's kind of a pain to use if you get up on there. But so the interesting thing about this is an introduction to a pushable object, and the introductions to all things in the game, as far as I know, or as far as I've been able to find, they're basically a three-part operation, and the first part is always like this. It's something innocuous, and it just is, again, we talked about how Troika does this. They just plop things into the game, and if the player can keep up and follow what's happening, that's great, and if they can't, that's too bad. But anyway, this is how things are always first introduced. It's in this way where there's no combat, and there's nothing going on, and whatever they're introducing has no purpose. It doesn't serve any purpose, and it's not necessary. It's just here to look at and be amused by. And the thing about when I explain things like this, it might be, oh yeah, that's simple enough, that's obvious. But if you're playing the game by yourself, you know, it's probably not that simple to notice these things. So one of these things has already gone by, and I just presented it in a past video and didn't make any comment about it, just to as an example of how easy it is to overlook these things as they're introduced. And then when we get to the second phase of the introduction, we'll talk about the second phase again, which the second phase will be more complicated. It will have a use, but isn't a use that, again, is necessary or buys you anything, but it will be useful for something. And it will be normally under a higher stress situation, as in there's combat people around, or there's active combat, or you're sneaking, or some active situation would be the next phase. And the last phase is it does have a function, and the function does get you something, and normally it's required. It's not optional. Sneaking. And then here's one of those situations where we can reach through the door. We have to find that just right instance. But it doesn't buy us anything because the door is blocked here. And another instance of a paper. Although not important, or not important to me, I guess. I actually don't remember all of the things that are wrong here, but there's just so many elements, like you're supposed to duck and go under these. Then there's two on the left and one on the right. The last one's on the left again. And again, I just usually run through those and sometimes end up dying. And then, so this is what our pre-open door did for us, but now we get the sound of it opening again when it's already open. Ding. Okay, I didn't even attempt to do it that time. If you're good, you can go out onto the ledge and drop down and catch that next ledge. Just one final parting shot. You just had to do it, didn't you? So another interesting thing about this is that this box, the physics for the box is in here, but the box is offset 90 degrees. It's turned and rotated 90 degrees, and it's setting like in this position here. And so that's like the clue to knowing where to put these boxes, is that whatever happened in their compiler, when they built these in this position, and then when their compiler, they got a new version probably from Valve, and then it turned and rotated all of these 90 degrees. So when you see these in these odd positions, you know that they're turned and rotated 90 degrees, and you know that the physics that they wanted, you can't walk over. You have to jump on top of them. So there's two kinds of physics for these boxes. There's the non-combat physics, which are in areas like this and in all the hubs where you have to jump up on them. And then there's the combat physics where you don't bump into them. You just go you go through them, actually. They don't have any physics. So we'll talk about that later when we get to the combat areas with those boxes. And that's it. I usually just run through that as fast as possible, because there's really nothing interesting happening there, I do believe. We can watch our hip thrusting and our splashing technique. Go back into first person to be less buggy with the camera. We even come out pointing the right direction for where we want to go. Nice. This is one of those situations where there's a lot of back and forthing.
How odd. I was just having naughty thoughts about you. You made quite an impression earlier. Did you come up just to cheer lonely little me? Really? Do I often pogo stick through your thoughts wearing nothing but a smile? Be honest. Or don't. What all swayed kittens do. On hands and knees, you lap up the milk of me. And we purr, kitten, like dragonflies buzzing around frog bellies. So, Therese told me you might be back with something for her. Do you have it with you? I'm not just some silly doll, you know. All my life, my sisters made me out to be a joke. She told you I was an embarrassment, didn't she? That I couldn't tie my shoes, let alone hold on to something for her. Is that it? She's always belittling me. She's the smart one. She's the favorite. She's the successful one. Well, that's not fair. I'm not a fool. This club's success is just as much my doing as it is hers. Do you understand what it's like to have your own flesh and blood ripping you apart on a daily basis for 2 lifetimes? Can you? Fine, you hold on to it. Since you were so willing to brave that big spooky place for my darling sister, how about doing a teensy tiny favor for little troubled me? Do you know Gallery Noir down the street? I happen to know there's a charity event being organized there. Lots of influential Santa Monicans slithering in for token appearances. But there's one thing they don't know. The whole event's been set up by a kindred trying to establish their own power clique in our city, and we can't let that happen, can we? So I need some brilliant young upstart to spoil the milk. I promise this won't take long. Take this knife. Give the paintings in the gallery a good slashing. Don't get caught, and don't turn it into a massacre. And steal the charity box, would you? Buy yourself something velvet.
All right.
I'm sure Therese will be thrilled to honor your agreement when you get back. But in the meantime, get to the museum and ruin those paintings. Then pay me a visit. I want to hear all about it. Hurry up. I can only amuse myself for so long. Oh, and there was something about the paintings. What was it?
I don't know.
Oh well, have fun, Duckling.
I know. So this is another one of those situations where we need to, if we want to save the sisters, we need to, there's a lot of misinformation about how the sisters have to be equal and so on and so forth and blah, blah, blah. But this is just another one of those situations, the same as on the Dane, where you just have to amass brownie points with each of the sisters. And I believe it's even the number's the same. I believe it's 4. To get the Skyline apartment, you need 4 brownie points with LaCroix, and to get both of the sisters, you need a minimum for all 3 cases, a minimum of 4 for each. Although in the original, the expression to evaluate for Jeanette is bugged and it doesn't fire, so you don't have to do anything for Jeanette. And but I have fixed those, and so in 0.7 they're not fixed, which I sort of like 0.7 a lot more than 0.8 personally, because a lot of those things are left bugged because it's just a lot more fun, I think, to play that way. But in 0.8, for people that prefer the more refined and more gone over and fixed up stuff, that they're fixed, and they do have to equal 4 here. And also, so in the original you can refuse Jeanette the slashing and it doesn't affect the outcome. You can still save both sisters, and it's the same in this one, except you can refuse, but you need more of something else to get it to work. And also, if you turn on the extras as a Nosferatu, you can save both sisters, but you have to figure out how to do that. It's not by seduction, obviously, because, and the same with Vivi. I made a video about that, or as a Nosferatu you can get Vivi to like you, but it's not by seduction. Alright, this just flying along like crazy here.
The sewers are all money, with 1,000 lonely suicides.
Oh wait, I'm going the wrong way. I thought we were flying along. I just had a brain block because I don't want to go fight this person. I guess if we're hard into min-maxing, we want to go sell our knife so that we get a free knife. I think we can seduce this person.
Hey, hold on a minute there. I'm afraid you're committing a 351. That's trespassing on private property. I'm gonna have to ask that you vacate the premises immediately, or I'm afraid I'll be forced to radio this in.
Wow. Definitely, it looks like a wow moment to me. There's a gigantic, big, huge payoff for the wow moment, but it doesn't come until like the last scene in the game with Chuck.
Well, Missy, that's just a natural response that people have to someone in my kind of position. The risk, prestige, authority. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Tough job.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how often I hear that in this line of work. It's the uniform, Women just can't get over the uniform. Well, yeah, unfortunately, if I continue to engage you in conversation, it's a violation of Code 613.
And then we'll have to come back to Chunk in a second. Clunk, clunk, Chunk. Chunk. I do want the money. We definitely need to get rid of some humanity. I'm stalling. beat up, but not dead. That should be it. Hello and goodbye. And we always want to wait for the blood to fade away. Otherwise, it leaves a mess on the floor. Guess those don't fade away. Those are permanent. Definitely a little beat up.
Thanks for coming back. What you need?
I'd like to sell something.
All right, here's what we got today.
We have our trusty 38, which we probably will have 38 story time at some point. I can't sell that, and I can sell that, and I can sell that and that. No and no, and yes. Okay, we're all set. Thank you, Trip. We might have like multiple sessions where we do nothing but talk about firearms. No goodies for us. The depth of night.
Though marine biologists that have examined the monster have
No email. All right. We can get behind that.
Speculate that it could be from a yet undiscovered family of sea creatures. A massive gelatinous creature that washed up on the beaches of Providence Island has scientists scratching their heads. Found by
Give. All good. So I believe that we end up in almost the exact same position as we did for one of our other videos. So I believe that's it for today, and thank you for watching.